might be said now that I have the best of both worlds, a Harvard education and a Yale degree.
Where did you go to law school again?
Well, I could ask you that very same question.
I went to Harvard.
Huh?
From Harvard.
First of all, he's a Stanford graduate.
It's very, very difficult to get in.
I was proud 33 years ago to receive my first Yale degree.
Graduated from Princeton with highest honors.
Graduates of the greatest university in the world, congratulations.
The things that the people they struggle with in business school are exactly the resources that I was exposed to in seminary. The technical part of business, you usually learn on the job. At the end of the day, when you run a business or when you're in a team context, knowing other people's cultures, knowing how people communicate, knowing people's motivations, right? The why behind, any product or service. These are all questions that you explore in seminary. My grandfather started Formosa Plastics. It was a company that really shaped actually the economy of Taiwan.
And he also built the most important hospital system in Taiwan. This entrepreneurship of him, I think, just influenced the family a lot.
My aunt started HTC. I had an uncle that started VIA. A different aunt started a motherboard business on FIC. Her son started KK Box, which is the Spotify of Asia.
Wanted to make something good for our society, this kind of thinking. It's just in our blood, I guess.
I was a physics and math major. I felt like I could get to ground truth through mathematics and physics. And obviously in that pursuit, I found out that I couldn't. In seminary, when I discovered what it is, it allowed me to explore deeper into those questions.
When Phil decided to go in that route, I think everyone was surprised, but supportive.
I was a little bit surprised. I know that God is calling him, so I thought he was going to be a pastor.
Yeah, I did not get much resistance, again, from family. I think, again, it's very different from my siblings. They went on the path of going to top university and then going directly into the semiconductor business. So I felt that my brother already did that, and so I had the freedom to do something different.
You see, I think the training really actually make a lot of, changes in. He's more ethical. He was able to put the Word of God together with what he experienced in his life and in his work.
Well, the foundation really is just understanding people, right? Understanding how people are motivated, why people behave the way they behave, whether it's their family or cultural background. These are all fundamental foundational questions that you are forced to understand and forced to question when you're interpreting scripture, but when you're interpreting people. Those skills are directly applicable in a business context. For the past 20 years, I've been in the business of disruption. I've been in the tech business for 20 years. The first 10 was building Android phones, and then the second, mostly in venture capital. The next sort of phase where I see the biggest disruption is the electric grid itself. Cold Electric is an energy storage battery company. This is a company that I started since COVID hit. I moved back to Taiwan, and I was looking to be more operational. Faith-driven entrepreneurs are pushed to answer a more grounded why. We do have a calling, and everybody has a unique calling. And it's very, very difficult to find that unique calling. It's going to feel lonely. The temptation, of course, is to settle for the closest thing, or to settle for a model that's already out there, or settle with whatever your colleagues are doing. I think people of faith are called not to get distracted by that, but to keep searching until you find that calling. When I moved back to Taiwan since COVID, me and a bunch of people from Silicon Valley invested in a basketball league.
A new basketball league has just been established.
On Tuesday, its founder announced the league's official name as P-League Plus.
Basketball, I think globally and also in Taiwan, is the fastest growing team sports. It went from an average of 200 people coming to games to 4,000. So it increased, 15, 20x in 1 year. When the second season was about to begin, it was just at a family gathering with my uncles and my cousins. I was just explaining to them that what it takes, right? Because as a board member of the league, I understood the nuts and bolts of building a team. Our cousins and our uncles and aunts felt that we could do this as a family.
Okay, so the first step was to find who known Taiwan's basketball to run it, and that's how someone suggested our current GM, James.
We started at the basement of Phil's house. And when we got there, it was Walter Sr., it was Shirley, Walter Jr., basically the whole Wong family and Phil. And the idea of starting this basketball team came up. I left that meeting telling them, I'm on board. Like, anything you guys want to do, let's do it.
When Jeremy Lin break out and then the Insanity event happened, it was the biggest thing in sports for Taiwan or in Asia. Just his parents are from Taiwan, so Taiwan people, of course, feel a strong connection with his success. The year before he came, we also acquired Joe to our team, his brother.
There's a lot of joy playing with my brother. Now to be able to be on the team, to communicate, to go through adversity, to figure out stuff together, and to really play off of each other, it's been one of my lifelong dreams, and I'm really glad that I get to experience that. There's something special happening here for sure. The league, P-League, has been growing more and more and more. We joined the East Asia Super League, which is a league that chooses championship teams from different leagues across Asia. We were the first team ever to finish in the top 4 in the Final 4. That was something historic that had never really been done in Taiwan basketball as well. And so, we're excited, and I'm glad to be a part of what's building.
There was this huge thing about who gets to sign Jeremy. At the end of the day, which rich billionaire is going to be able to sign Jeremy now? When you start asking that question, then it's not about Jeremy, it is not even about basketball. It really is just about the ego and the pride of the team owner and the team. At its worst, team sports is not about the sport, it's not about the game. It's simply about the pride and the ego. And I think what we're trying to do here is the complete opposite. I feel like my calling here is to amplify and give him the platform. And how do we use Jeremy's fame and exposure to spread kingdom values?
Not only in Taiwan, but in most Asian kind of like educational background, we are more forced or into a certain way of thinking and in a structure, right? The coaches here, when they coach a team, it was more all about top down.
And so you see that among players, that younger players feel like, I've always been in a setting where I can't say anything. And I think just working with the Wong family and feel like they've really preached open communication. We're trying to establish that culture where communication is never just one way, and it's never what I say is final, but it's always how do you feel about things, and how can we change things, how can we be better.
And Phil has been very encouraging to the players on the Kings. I want you to use your voice. I want you to start a podcast. I want you to use your social media. I want you to do whatever you want to do, if you want to do it, to share with the world who you are, because each person deserves the sovereignty and the freedom to be able to do that.
We're also the first organization to employ a chaplain. This chaplain also acts as kind of the mental health coach.
And I've stepped into a lot of organizations and cultures over the years, and as soon as I step in, I know where the problems are. And really what it boils down to is people don't feel safe from the top down. The owners and they feel like they have to have this persona, or the leaders or the managers or whatever have to have this persona of everything I do is right, there are no mistakes. And when that's your culture and that trickles down, then the people underneath you are afraid to make mistakes. They're afraid, everybody's got to protect themselves. Having somebody who can come in and help coach you in how to be vulnerable, how to lead well, how to communicate well, not just with your employees, with your team, with your players, with your family, whoever it is, but I think it helps places go from good to great.
I respect the leader who tells me when he's failed or tells me what he doesn't know more than the one who tries to pretend like they always succeed or they always have it figured out. I mean, as an entrepreneur, I think you have to try, you have to experiment, and you have to fail and fail often. There's so much power in trying and in being in positions of failure and having to be forced to figure it out. Really, I think what that does is, in the long run, it definitely increases your chances of success.
I think for Phil, being able to work with him, I've always noticed that I think he looks at any businesses or that organizations that he's a part of at a lot different angle than just the business. He looks at it as a lot of the people and the people that he's investing his time into and working with. And most of his talks with me are usually not about, how can we get more sales or how can we get more sponsorships or, how can we sell more merch. It's more, at the end of the day, it's about the people and how he invests into those people.
If you're a founder and a leader in a company, the culture in which you build is that opportunity. When you're a believer, the culture, how you evaluate good and bad and good and bad performance, how you deal with conflict, these are all examples of and opportunities for a leader to build that culture. You will hit challenges, but the question is how these challenges and how these conversations are dealt with, how these conflicts are resolved, right? Is it very top-down or is it very, we can solve these problems together? I think whether you're an entrepreneur or a leading athlete, these are all culture opportunities to share this is a different way we approach these issues. I've often had entrepreneurs ask me, like, why did you do this or how did you do that? Or even in Taiwan, they think the culture that we build is an American way. We just tell them this is not the American way. This is the Jesus way, right? This is how we communicate. This is how we do things out of love.